welcome to beautiful Barcelona for the final round of the Fanatec SRO eSport GT Series. My name's Paul Jeffrey, alongside with Mr Chris Hay, and in the background you can probably hear is the real world Blancpain GT drivers out practicing on track. Speaking of practice, Chris, our drivers, as you can see around us in the game park, are practicing for the final round of what's been an incredible season so far.
Yeah, this is now the 5th event we've been to this year. 4 qualifying events where the top 3 drivers went through, and they're now here practicing around us. We're distracting them with our little pista camera, but I'm really looking forward to just finding out who are the best GT endurance drivers in a race sim in the world.
That's right. So just to reiterate for those of you that are maybe joining the series right at the very final event, we've done our semi-final events at Paul Ricard. So starting at Monza, we moved to Paul Ricard, went to Spa-Francorchamps, did Nürburgring last time out last month, and now we're at Barcelona. The sun's shining and it all hangs on this one race.
Yeah, I think there are a few potential standout names as well. I'm looking forward to seeing Kamil Franček, who absolutely dominated his round in Monza, and as an invitational guest at Nürburgring, absolutely slayed in the wet. Looking forward to seeing what he can produce this evening.
Yep, Kamil Franček's been a real strong driver every time we've seen him on circuit. But all the drivers here, Chris, these are all people who have qualified by achieving the results they needed in our semi-final races. So this is arguably the strongest level throughout the field that we've seen all season.
Yeah, I mean, these are well-known e-sport personalities in the sim racing world. Lots of names that people should recognise if they've got any even passing interest in racing esports. So I think any one of these 12 drivers could take it all.
Just to talk a little bit about the format, Chris, if I may, for this final round, so this is the last time that you'll see the SRO, Fanatec SRO eSport GT Series this year. We're doing 2 one-hour races, so that's 2 races where all our drivers take part. We've got point system across the 2, looking to crown our eventual champion. 2 hours, or 2 one-hour races. Bit of a different dynamic for the drivers.
Yeah, there's a bigger strategic element. 2 second places or a second place and a third could potentially be better than a win and a poor finishing position. So there's a replication to some extent of a mini championship or an endurance type series here, and the drivers haven't really faced that sort of thing in this series so far.
No, they haven't, and of course we're racing on the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, which is a beautiful venue. The sun is shining, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the day unfolds. Stay tuned for more.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Caldarelli, team principal and driver for FFF Racing and Lamborghini factory driver in the Blancpain GT Series. We've been following the SRO eSport GT Series round from close, and it's finally grand finale time here at Barcelona. Today, the best player of Assetto Corsa Competizione will attend the grand finale event. These 12 sim racers are the 4 rounds podium finishers and represent top-notch virtual racing performance skills as car control, track competence, consistency and car setup management inside the game, of course. But let me explain how this extreme level selection will follow up at Lamborghini Squadra Corse. The 3 fastest sim racers of today's event will be invited at Lamborghini in Sant'Agata Bolognese at our headquarters. The first approach to real racing will consist of a historic lesson featuring a Lamborghini museum and production plant visit. Then you will be allowed to meet the Lamborghini Squadra Corse staff, where we will get in touch with their skill and we will start evaluation on them. After this, you will be transferred to the legendary Circuit of Imola. On this iconic track, you will be engaged with driving skills, test track on laps on a Lamborghini Huracan road car, and the instructor will methodically judge their approach to such an extreme car, and the final challenge will be on Assetto Corsa Competizione. Will give a space to another selection to choose the best driver among you, who will assess the final experience, driving a real race car, our FFF Racing Lamborghini Huracan Evo GT3, at the Adria International Raceway. So, good luck guys.
Now we're going to introduce you to the drivers that will be taking part in this final round. First up, can you introduce yourself please and let us know who you race for?
I'm David Greco. I'll be driving on Audi for Trackmaster Racing.
And David, this round, final race, Barcelona. Anything about the track that you're looking forward to particularly?
Barcelona is not my favorite, but it's a very nice technical track.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Amos Laurito and I will drive for Ferrari Driver Academy.
And is it safe to say that you're going to be driving a Ferrari this afternoon?
Yeah, obviously.
I'm David Tonizza, I'm from Italy and I race for Ferrari Driver Academy, and of course I will be use the Ferrari 488.
Brilliant.
Hi, I'm Giovanni Salvo and I will drive Lamborghini for Race1 Sport Academy.
Are there any particular challenges you think you'll be facing with the two-race format this afternoon?
I think qualifying will be very tough. We are all near with the times. It will be difficult.
Hello, I'm Assetto Corsa. I'm racing driver for Virtual Driver and I will be driver OG.
Axel, you've had a good season so far. How much practice have you put in for the season finale?
I practice 15 hours.
Fantastic. Good luck. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Kamil Pawłowski, coming from Poland, and I'm driving for Trustmaster Esports.
How important do you think qualifying is going to be with this two-race format?
I think it will be very important because the first corners are very dangerous, and with a good qualifying pace you have more motivation to push hard, so yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kamil Franczak and I'm driving for Trustmaster Racing.
Carol, you've had a good season so far. Emil Frey vehicles have been your car of choice up to this point. What are you driving today?
No, not this time. This time I went for mercedes-amg GT3. I think it's going to be a good choice.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kuba Brzezinski. I'm driving for Williams Esports and I'm going to be driving a Bentley.
So, is there anything in particular about this Barcelona circuit that you think is going to be a challenge this evening?
I think the last chicane for sure is very technical and you need to keep it tidy and clean.
And where are the best overtaking opportunities?
For sure the front straight away. You can get the slipstream and overtake even before the corner.
And the slipstream opportunities are good here?
Yeah, very good. The straight is very long.
Hello, my name is Sergej Jajowski and I drive for AAA Esports.
Can you tell us a little bit about the last time we saw you in the SRO Esports Series?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, and Barcelona, it's the final. Are you feeling confident?
I think I'm gonna do a good job.
Hi, I'm Giuseppe De Fuoco from Italy. I race with the Lamborghini from Musto GD Sport.
Quick word on the SRO. In a serious note, on the Fanatec SRO Esport GT Series final, are you looking forward to it? Have you been impressed with the quality of the level of the drivers?
It was very impressive because we see many more mistakes on the real drivers than from the e-drivers. I don't say any more virtual drivers because they are e-drivers actually. And it's very nice to see how also they fight in a very fair way. They are very professional. And this is what impressed me a lot. The fact that they have a lot of training, they are very methodic in the way how they train. Like, I mean, I was remember me the Schumacher in the previous year that he take care about any single detail. So it was just great for that.
So, final question from me, and I'm going to ask the Martin Brundle question. If you were a betting man, who would you be putting your money on this afternoon?
Good question. I think that no. I have to be polite. So all of them are very good drivers.
I thought I put you on the spot.
If you, yeah, correct. If you have seen the competition right now, I think that we have some options for some drivers that could be have more chance than others. But I believe that until the last race, you can say anything.
Very safe answer there, Marco. Thank you very much.
I had to, but good luck to all of them.
Yep, good luck to all of them from us, and we're going to throw back now to the track and start the final round of the SRO Esport GT Series. Yep, so this is the first of two races. The drivers are lining up. The pressure is on. They're looking for the green light. The drivers are accelerating down the start-finish straight, and this is the beginning of the SRO Esport GT Series Grand Finale here from Barcelona as they head into the first corner. Lights ablaze. Everybody's going to be a little bit careful not to get wrapped up in too much of an incident as the two front drivers make light contact. Pawlowski on the outside, Frenchek in the blue AMG Mercedes, getting a little hip and shoulder but manages to hold clear and maintain a lead just
Just a reminder that both of those are teammates. Pawlowski now under pressure from Kuba Brzezinski in the Bentley, which is pretty damn fast in a straight line. Hasn't made enough to make a move into turn 4, the Repsol corner.
Yeah, Brzezinski is trying to paint the back of his Bentley, the front of his Bentley onto the back of the Mercedes in front, but actually gets a little bit wide and opens the door almost for the first of the 2 Ferraris, which is David Tanitsa, currently in P4, but he's getting interested in the back of that Bentley for 3rd position, as we see the other Ferrari on the outside of the Lamborghini in the chicane, but doesn't quite make it. And my apologies, that's an AMG Mercedes, not a Ferrari. But the Ferrari behind is now looking at the back of the Mercedes.
Same, Paul. You're both. Oh no, wait, they don't, do they?
They're both red. That's good enough for me. As we see Frenchek now marking out a little bit of a lead from Pawlowski in front. The Bentley in P3 holding off a very hungry-looking Tanitsa in 4th, and Axel Petit in 5th position in the first of the Audis in our field.
Yeah, Marciello managed to get past David Greco on the start there. I noticed him in the background by turn 3. Most likely down into turn 1 would be my guess. And Dries van Tor in the background runs very deep while trying to take David Greco on the inside. He's on the inside into the RACC chicane, but Greco slams the door shut, as well he probably should.
Yep, some good close racing there from David Greco and Dries van Tor. Good driving from both of them to maintain it, as we see now Tanitsa on the inside defending from Petit in the Audi on the outside. A dangerous position for both drivers to be in, but the Audi's actually got the overrun and is a relatively easy pass into T1 there for Axel Petit. Good driving from both our drivers there.
Yeah, we felt that Petit possibly had a little bit more pace in hand in the qualifying session, and his last final run was balked slightly by Tanitsa, as it happens, and I think at this stage of the race that Audi looks pretty handy.
Yep, a little bit of payback there for Petit in the opening stages of this. Remember folks, a 60-minute race that we're watching here for the first of 2 in the final round, live on Race Department TV on Twitch. So thank you everybody for tuning in across the different media that we are showing this video on today. Hope you enjoy the race as much as we're enjoying calling the action so far.
Yeah, Kuba Brzezinski's early charge in the Bentley seems to have come to a little bit of a halt as the camels up front. I can't keep calling them the camels because at some point I'm going to mispronounce that. Anyway, his charge coming to a little bit of a halt and coming under pressure now from the very much charging Axel Petit.
Yeah, Brzezinski in the big Bentley GT3 is looking like he may start becoming a bit of a cork in the bottle for the chasing pack behind, and it will be important, although it's a long race and a little bit of caution needs to be applied for these drivers. They don't want to get too much of a gap to Frenchek and Pawlowski in front, so Axel Petit will be very keen to make the most of what looks like a really well-sorted Audi at this stage of the motor race, as well. Looking a little bit further back at Jojowski in the Lamborghini, was under a little bit of pressure from the AMG Mercedes behind. It's De Salvo in the Lamborghini, sorry, Jojowski in the AMG Mercedes doing the chasing as we ride on board now.
Yeah, coming back to that Brzezinski-Petit fight, down to 0.3 of a second there between them. It feels like, certainly at this stage of the race, that Audi has got some real pace. But the real question for me is, will they be able to maintain that advantage as I think we've seen him run wide in front and has let David Tanitsa pass. So commentator's curse once again.
Yeah, we're good at that one, but he's not giving up in the Audi. Looked to go around the outside, thought better of it, came off the throttle and now just tucked back into the back of the Ferrari. Some good driving from both of the drivers there. Again, must be very conscious that this is a 60-minute race, so there's a lot of action still to enjoy. And of course, we've got the second race at 2100 local, so do stay tuned for that one. These are points races. Both events will count towards the overall series champion at the end of today's activity here in Barcelona.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Paul, when you said earlier that Brzezinski's becoming a little bit of a cork in a bottle there. The train of cars behind is pretty much nose to tail now.
But up front, Kamil Franchek has now brought a 1.4 second gap to Pawlowski behind to the table. So Franchek doing what we've seen him do before and starting to run as fast as he can at the start of the race, build himself a little bit of a gap and then give himself a comfort zone as the race closes into the final stages. The cars, the track condition change underneath the drivers.
And that's exactly what he did in Monza, which was the race that qualified him for this. If you caught our little piece earlier, he was also an invitational driver for the Nürburgring round. And during the wet races there was one point where he was putting 3 seconds a lap on the field. This is a guy that we're very used to watching, be it at the front and just lap after lap after lap is quicker than the last. He's a machine.
He's an absolute machine now, but if we're looking a little bit further down the grid at P5, P6, we've got Axel Petit in a battle royal with the Salvo, the Lamborghini and the Audi fighting hard, and that's potentially opened up a door for Yuyovski behind, who's watching with interest in the red AMG Mercedes. 3 wide is not an exciting move in this corner, and Yuyovski wisely thinks better of it and backs out as the Lamborghini tries to carve a way through. The outside line will become the inside for the next corner, but he lost a little bit of traction, goes late on the brakes, makes some contact with the back of Axel Petit. Petit does really well to keep the Audi onto the circuit and lives to fight another day, but a little bit of a clumsy move there, Chris. Didn't quite have the consequences it could have done, and all drivers continue on into the next 53 minutes and 40 seconds of racing.
Yeah, it feels like DeSalvo really didn't have the move done, but kept the nose in anyway. But I think the real story there is Petit, who was looking so strong in the second and third lap of the race. His pace seems to have disappeared and he's dropping back like a stone.
Yep, Axel Petit struggling a little bit now as this fight intensifies for 6th position. We've got the AMG Mercedes at the lead of this little train, Erhan Yuyovski, followed very closely by Giovanni De Salvo in the Lamborghini that we're riding on board with now, and Amos Lorito, who's been a little bit quiet so far this event in a watching brief in 7th in the Ferrari. But Lorito, Chris, needs to be really careful because he's got De Fuoco and Petit right behind him now, and actually as I'm speaking it looks like De Fuoco and Petit are in the midst of a very strong fight coming down the start-finish straight heading into T1 8 minutes into the race.
We're on board with David Tanitsa in the Ferrari, of course, coming through the turn 1 and 2 complex, looking much tidier than the Bentley, which is already looking like he's struggling to get into the apexes of those first 2 corners. We commented that Kuba Brzezinski was starting to become a cork in the bottle. Perhaps the battle earlier took some of that pressure away as we cut back to DeSalvo.
Yeah, this is where the fight of the race is happening at this moment in time. De Salvo really applying the pressure now to Yuyovski in front. And of course, as we've said already, this is a 2-race finale, so the points that are acquired in this race will count towards the overall score at the end of today. So it's very important, if there's ground that you can make up, to make that ground up, because you never know exactly how tight the final result may be once our race at 2100 has completed later this afternoon.
Yeah, Yuyovski managed to sneak past a couple of these cars during all of the madness a couple of laps ago, and is now definitely starting to hold up Lorito, De Fuoco and Petit behind.
This is a really good race. I mean, these guys are driving it as though it's a 15-minute touring car race, and it is a 60-minute endurance race, so there will be a little bit of caution has to be applied to the way the cars are being pushed. 60 minutes, we've got enhanced tyre wear on for the race today, so the cars will be changing as the stint progresses, and it'll be interesting to see if these guys were really pushing hard, looking one way and then the other to try and find a way past. Be interesting to see if this is going to have a negative effect on ultimate lap time further into the stint. As we now head on the start-finish straight, let's have a look how much pace that Lamborghini's got against the Mercedes in front as we switch back to Lorito, who's got the best view in the house at the moment of this fight up front.
Well, he would do if we could see past the the wing mirror there, but as you say that, it does look like DeSalvo managed to edge past Yuyovski there on the inside into turn 1.
Yeah, De Salvo did a good job to get the car slowed down and back onto the racing line again to to avoid being re-passed again by the Mercedes, and that's an important move for Giovanni De Salvo in 5th. He's going to hope now that he can get his head down, start building a bit of a cushion from the raging pack of high-performance GT3 cars that are just itching to get past the green Lamborghini, and start closing that gap to Tanitsa, who's having a bit of a quiet time, 0.8 of a second away from Brzezinski up in P4.
Yeah, Yuyovski is clearly struggling a little bit with the car, missing apexes here and there. As you say, DeSalvo will be looking to press on. He didn't lose too much time behind Yuyovski in the grand scheme of things, but the rest of the train behind him won't be long to pass.
No, it won't, as already we've got the, I believe that's the Audi up the inside there behind. That's a really brave move, late on the brakes. The Ferrari sees him coming. Lorito gets out of the way, and De Fuoco now has moved himself a little bit further up the field as we look back.
Beautifully done by De Fuoco there. He pulled out so late, just managed to master the car on the brakes, hold it perfectly. somehow got it stopped and into the apex and didn't run wide, left enough room.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Strong driving by both drivers there. Also, credit where credit's due to Laurito. Saw the move coming, gave enough racing room to avoid any unpleasantries, and yeah, strong racing from
Somehow
both.
saw the move coming because it was very, very late.
Yeah, it's good awareness that our drivers have in these cars. Of course, they're not confined by a cockpit as real-world drivers would be. They're in a racing sim rig. They're all in the same room in the esports park here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. So the tension, you can feel the tension, the electricity in the air as these drivers are giving absolutely everything they've got for, well, another 48 or so minutes. It's a tense time, this, for an esport driver in a big level competition such as our own.
It is, Paul, and just to change the subject slightly, you were saying David Tinitza was having a little bit of a quiet time, but that quiet time he's been having has allowed him to slowly creep up on Kuba Brzezinski and a potential podium place.
Yep, good driving for Tinitza. His quickest lap was a 44.436 last time around, which is just a tenth faster than Brzezinski ahead of him. So good driving by Tinitza, a clean workmanlike performance so far, showing a real turn of pace to close himself back up on the Lamborghini. And this is important now. Tinitza needs to effect an overtake on Brzezinski ahead if he's going to retain any chance of closing the gap to Frenchek and Pavlovsky that are now starting to stretch their legs a little in the two
Speaking
Mercedes.
of legs, Paul, the Bentley's got very long legs, and it's going to be pretty tough for Tinitza to pass.
It's going to be very interesting to see how these two cars fare against each other. As we said earlier in the broadcast, we've not really seen much of the Ferrari at the sharp end of the grid during the season so far, so it's a little bit of an unknown to Chris and myself here in these SRO eSport GT Series events. So this is going to be very curious to see what Tinitza's got in his armoury.
He's got the ability to monster the curbs, while the Bentley doesn't by the looks of things, Paul.
Yeah, it looked really strong in the first sector there in the opening few corners of the lap. Very important to maintain your speed and momentum through those corners. There's a couple of long straights that we're coming up to where, as we say, the Ferrari potentially will be a little disadvantaged against the Bentley. As we hit 7:14 AM in-game time, and it's starting to lighten up around the circuit, which shouldn't be underestimated how much of a challenge that gives to the driver, the different visual effects that they'll be seeing compared to what they've been used to so far in this race.
Yeah, they'll be able to see the apex. There's always a good one. I like that.
Yeah, that helps no end in terms of setting a fast lap, that's for sure, as Tinitza now is really on the ragged edge as he's looking to bring himself into a slipstream position against the back of that Bentley. As we flick back now to real-world driver Dries van Toor, driving a little bit wide.
He was under massive pressure there from Marciello, his real-world racing rival, who I think got a bit over-enthusiastic on his way into turn 7 and 8 there. It looks like Van Toor almost backed off. I'm not sure what these two are up to.
Yeah, there's Marcello may have had a little issue earlier on. He was in front of David Greco, but now seems to have slipped back to the 12th position. But we're just over a tenth of a second covering those two. That's a fight that's going to continue as we flick back to Tinitza now. A little bit too far away from the Bentley, I think, despite the substantial slipstream that a car the size of the Bentley Continental GT3 offers down this really long
Paul,
straight.
you don't have to point out that the Bentley is large every time you talk about the Bentley.
You so do. Oh, you
People
so
have got
do.
eyes. It's filling up 2/3 of the screen, you can tell. But that does beg an important question. We've seen this battle go on for 3 or 4 laps now. It just doesn't seem like the Ferrari's got the straight line speed to effect the sort of standard overtake down on the inside into turn 1. So what can David Tinitza do?
If Tinitza's going to make an overtake, it's going to have to be a brave moment on the brakes. He just shows his nose up the inside to the left-hander, just lets Brzezinski ahead know that he's there and he's interested and he's looking at an overtake. He's got the ultimate lap time pace, but as you say, I think the Ferrari speed is in all the wrong sections of the track in terms of easy, or relatively easy overtaking opportunities as he gets a little bit squirrely on the gas, but nothing too dramatic.
Manages to stay very close through Kamsa, so which is something certainly difficult to do, but you can just see that even in the slipstream, all it's doing is stopping him dropping back from the Bentley.
Yeah, this is a very difficult portion of the circuit. Very easy to overrun the ideal racing line, miss your apex and compromise yourself up the hill into another very difficult, slow, technical section of the track. And this is the closest we've seen to the back of the Bentley at this portion of the lap.
This is
so
great
far.
stuff, and I'm really glad we're in on this camera angle, as you can just see the closing speed into the RACC chicane. Hopefully Tanitsa can stay nice and close, but there you go, that's where the Bentley really excels, getting out of the slow corners, and once again the gap opens up.
Yeah, that makes overtaking incredibly difficult when your car has that kind of disadvantage compared to the rivals. And just to remind everybody who may have missed the beginning of this broadcast, this is the first of 2 races. There are point scoring races, so they'll be running 25, 18, 15, etc. as per Formula 1 rules. So it's not a done deal at the end of this race. There's still another 60-minute event to go, starting at 9 p.m. today, local time.
Now, to pick up a story from earlier, we've got Axel Petit, who was unceremoniously punted a little bit earlier by, I think it was De Salvo in the Lamborghini, now recovering, has pulled up to the back of Amos Lorito. And, well, he had a lot of pace earlier on in the race, so it'll be interesting to see whether he can get past the Ferrari.
Yeah, Axel Petit's been up and down this field pretty much all race. It looked like at the beginning one of the stronger cars out on the track did the Audi and Axel Petit, but he dropped quite quickly down into his current 9th position, but he's doing well to hold on to the cars in front, and if anything, looks a little bit interested in trying to make his way back up through the running order again, so maybe some life's coming back into that Audi again.
Yeah, interesting to note that Aaron Yovsky's managed to, as I speak too soon, and there's hot contact between De Fuoco and Yovsky. I was just about to say that he's been doing a great job of keeping the cars behind him, and perhaps a frustrated De Fuoco making a slightly optimistic move there into turn 10.
That's a shame for both drivers there. Yuyosky, unfortunately, getting tagged on the rear of the Mercedes, the AMG Mercedes, giving himself a half spin, and because of the proximity of the cars around him, he's going to have to wait a little while until he can rejoin the racing circuit again. So that's going to cost Yuyosky quite heavily in the battle for this race, but there's still 42 minutes to go. Yuyosky's, we've seen pace from the driver in the past, so he's going to have to get his head down now, put that to one side, concentrate on what's ahead, and charge his way, hopefully for him, back up through the field once again in the AMG Merc.
Just to tidy up some of the stuff at the other end, at the sharp end of the field, Kamil Franczak, unsurprisingly, still gradually extending his lead to almost 4 seconds now. I think he's got the pace of this race pretty well managed at the front there.
Yeah, Franczak does seem to have the outright lap pace to maintain and strengthen his position. Of course, we've seen Franczak race before. He is sympathetic to his car, so he is good at managing the tyre life and all the other things that an accomplished professional driver needs to do to stroke the car home in a 60-minute race. But again, Pawlowski, we've seen, has got a lot of speed in that second AMG Merc, and he's not a million miles away. 3.6 after 10 laps. Pawlowski, is he lacking the last couple of tenths that he needs to close up, or is he playing the long game and just taking care with his car in a bid to close up and attack later on in the event? We'll find out as things continue on for the next 41 minutes just under.
Interestingly for me, I thought they were going to drop Kuba Brzezinski in the Bentley a little bit quicker than they are. Brzezinski's still holding on there, just 2 and a bit seconds behind. Tanitsa still stuck. Yep. Let's be honest about it, stuck behind that Bentley.
And as you're talking about Tanitsa, we move over to his Ferrari driver academy teammate, eSport teammate, Amos Lorito, currently in 7th in the second of the 2 Ferraris in this field. Lorito's got a challenge in front and a challenge behind. He's been shadowed by Axel Petit, that's now moved himself up to 8th. So Axel Petit really coming back alive again, and Lorito's going to have to be on his toes to keep that Audi in check behind.
Yeah, this feels a little bit inevitable, unfortunately, Paul. I genuinely feel that Petit has got some pace in that car and perhaps hasn't had the chance to show it yet.
Yep, it does seem like Petit is a man on the move at this moment in time. And just for anybody that's watching from home, if you can hear loud noises in the background, that's because we're actually at Barcelona. So we are at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya for the Blancpain GT Series weekend. And they're really nice racing cars you can hear going just outside our window. We can't see them this time from our seating position like we have been able to do previously, but that's one of the beautiful things, isn't it, Chris, about the Fanatec SRO Esport GT Series. We're at the track at the heart of where the action is happening.
Yeah, thankfully no visual distractions. Just seeing that car number 9 has been served a 15-second penalty for the collision, which I believe is Giuseppe De Fuoco that we saw earlier on in the race.
Yep, so that'll be a direct result. De Fuoco's time penalty will be a direct result for the contact that he had with Yoyoski just a couple of laps ago.
Lorito now really under pressure from Petit. I don't think we've seen him this close before yet, Paul.
No, we haven't. Lorito actually had a little bit of a kiss on the back bumper from Petit earlier in the lap, and now Axel Petit has really got the bit between the teeth and is looking to close into the slipstream on the back of the Ferrari, interested in making a move into T1. I think he's a little bit too far behind. He may show his nose, just let Lorito know that he's there, decides against it, concentrates on trying to get a clean corner entry. He'll want to get a good run off this corner, up the hill, see if he can try and stay behind the Ferrari. Difficult with the slipstream, getting the downforce away from the front of the Audi, and you can see him now in the long right-hander struggling to keep the car on the ideal racing line, and I think just Lorito will live to fight another day. But as you say, Chris, this has not got many more laps left until I can imagine Petit nipping past and potentially gapping Lorito in the 488 Ferrari GT3.
Well, the one saving grace for Amos right now is that he's picking up the slipstream from the Lamborghini in front of him as well.
Yeah, that's turning into a 3-horse fight very, very quickly indeed. As we go back now to the ever-determined and ever-tired Kuba Brzezinski, currently in third in the Bentley G. I nearly said Big Bentley again. In the Bentley Continental GT3, Brzezinski's under some significant pressure now from Ferrari Driver Academy teammate to the guy we've just been looking, Amos Lorito, David Taniza in fourth.
Yeah, Brzezinski's doing a good job of being quick at the parts of the lap he really needs to, which is mostly out of this chicane here. Just applying the power gently, not hitting the traction control too much and just getting the perfect launch, but we've not seen David Tanitsa this close before.
Yeah, Tanitsa now is really firmly in the slipstream of the Bentley in front. The Ferrari's no slouch in a straight line, although probably ultimately a bit slower than the Bentley, as Brzezinski even goes to the inside to defend the inside line. That opens up the outside for Tanitsa. He's looking to close the door as Brzezinski. Tanitsa on the curve, thinks better of it, decides not to fight into that corner, looks to get a switchback, gets a little bit of a slide in the Ferrari as I fall over my own tongue trying to explain what's happening, and the two cars remain in 3-4 as they began the lap.
Yeah, sadly for Tanitsa, he wasn't able to maintain the pace advantage he had through turn 1 and 2 into turn 3, lost a little bit. I don't know if he had a little bit of an issue on turn in, but wasn't able to effect a pass down into turn 4.
Intelligent driving though there. Tanitsa could have forced the issue and potentially put himself into a risky position, but he acknowledged the fact that he wasn't in the ideal overtaking position. He knows he's got the lap time advantage over the Bentley in front and is now looking to realign himself for another look up the inside. You're not going to get past there, Sunshine, so stay back and see if you can affect something down into what is for me one of the most difficult braking zones on the circuit, and both drivers will do well to spot their markers, avoid any kind of shenanigans, keep it nice and clean. Tanitsa looking for a little bit of a late apex there, doesn't really seem to do himself any favours, and a little bit further back this time, Chris, than this time last lap.
Yeah, a little bit further back, amounts to all of 0.3 of a second.
Oh, positively miles away in that case then, positively miles.
I think you're starting to see a little bit of frustration from Tanitsa in the way he's driving. He's just being a little bit more ragged than we've seen in the past.
He is, and just to go back to an earlier incident against, to revisit that one for De Fuoco, has a 15-second penalty. Just to explain that to the viewers at home, that 15 seconds will be applied to his race time rather than it being a more traditional stop and go or drive-through penalty. So keep that one in mind that De Fuoco currently sits in 6th, but he's only got a 1.3 second gap to Lorito behind, which he will lose when the results wash out at the end of the race.
Right, so just to clean up an earlier story with the Yuyovsky incident where he was hit and spun off. It looks like he's in the pits now and has been for some time, so that may be to repair damage or maybe even a retirement, Paul.
It is. That's a shame for Yuyovsky, and he'll do well to get back out on the track again, because to reiterate, this is a point-paying event. There are 2 races, points for both races, so as many points as Yuyovsky can salvage from this race could well go towards helping him in his final finishing position at the close of play later on this evening. But a shame for something that felt a relatively harmless contact to have such a major impact on Yuyovsky in his AMG Mercedes.
Yeah, very much so, Paul. The battles still between Petit and Lorito rages on. I think this Barcelona circuit proves in many different formula to be tough to overtake on. If you've got DRS, it's quite straightforward, I think.
Yes, the less said about DRS, the better.
It's just that difficult acceleration zone off of the chicane through a fast right-hander onto a straight that's pretty long, but not the longest on the calendar. You've just got to be perfect. As we see David Tanitsa once again into the slipstream, very close behind that Bentley, but it's going to be a struggle to just even get close enough, let alone effect a pass.
Although Tanitsa does seem to have a reasonable run, shows his nose again, as I've said many a time, just lets the Bentley in front know as Brzezinski goes a little bit wide, which makes Tanitsa think about an overtake, but realises he can't do it, then lines himself up for the second and third portion. You'll not be able to get around the outside of that corner. It's a very long radius corner, and in fact Tanitsa runs a little bit wide because the car was suboptimal in its track positioning, and the Bentley survives. Somehow the Bentley of Brzezinski ahead survives again, but it's starting to look like that Bentley's struggling to get into the apex as he would want it to do. He leaves the door open, but Tanitsa decides not to walk through it, and now David Tanitsa in the 488 Ferrari GT3 needs to start thinking about Giuseppe De Fuoco, who's closing very quickly in the Lamborghini behind.
Yeah, I don't think Brzezinski's had a lot of pace over the last few laps, but he's very much dropped off in the last lap and a half or so, looking very ragged, looking slightly rattled, it has to be said, with Tanitsa behind, but he's still defending very well.
Yeah, Brzezinski defending incredibly strongly so far in the Bentley, but this two-car fight is very quickly about to turn into a 3-car fight. We need to remember that De Fuoco has a 15-second time penalty, so although racing on track with the cars ahead, in terms of the final results, he will find himself plummeting down the running order a little bit, but it's a good time for De Fuoco now. He needs to close and overtake, as we see Tanitsa looking up the inside into the final corner. The car in front, Brzezinski, acknowledges that the Ferrari is up the inside, gives him enough racing room, but the natural benefits of the Bentley to get off the corner faster than the Ferrari are in play, and now we see De Fuoco looking to try and find the outside line as the Bentley and Ferrari squabble into T1. He does it into turn 1. Can he find his inside for turn 2? No, he cannot. Manages to keep the car together. Good driving there from De Fuoco. Very, very hair-raising stuff from all 3 drivers, but they survive, and now Tanitsa is looking to get that position back. He'll have been surprised, I think, Chris, for that bright green Bentley to have shown up in his mirrors like it did.
Well, perhaps not, Paul. I think you may have missed the beginning of the incident there where Brzezinski nailed the sausage curb at turn 15, very much offline, then going into turn 16, the final corner, which slowed the pursuing Tanitsa, which is ultimately what put De Salvo into the slipstream and allowed him to get ahead into turn 1.
And that's a great lesson for all the drivers, that just one small incident can absolutely cause significant impact into the on-track action. So we can't afford a single mistake from a single one of these drivers, otherwise you could be looking at a significant change in the running order as we hit the 30-minute mark almost, so half distance, and I don't think I've taken a breath since qualifying ended.
It doesn't sound like it, Paul.
Yeah.
The other good piece of life advice coming out of this is, of course, just don't hit the sausage curbs.
Yes, that's good advice in any racetrack, and Barcelona in particular really unsettled the Bentley. But
so here we go again, round 11, I think, Paul, of this battle.
Yeah, these three now are separated. They're pretty much the same kind of distance between each other as we hear one of the GT3 cars in the real series exiting the pit lane and sounding beautiful. I think the gaps, Chris, are a little bit too large at the moment for anybody to realistically be looking for an overtake.
Well, the question now, of course, is does De Salvo have a slightly better straight line speed than the Ferrari did, and will he be stuck now behind Kuba Brzezinski for the next half an hour like David Tonizza has?
Yeah, that's a very good point. De Salvo is he's been quite quiet, but he's driving a strong race so far in the Lamborghini. Sorry, but as you say, this Bentley has got some good pace inside it, so it'll be very difficult for De Salvo to try and find a way past. And I'll be interested to see now, is he going to attack? Is he thinking about the Ferrari behind for defending? 30 minutes to go. Hairy times for all concerned.
I think he's thinking, I've got a very wide car.
Yeah, a very wide car and an unflustered driving manner, which is important despite the sausage curb attack from just last lap.
I think it should be said, actually, that if Brzezinski does manage to maintain this podium position, and there is, of course, a very long way to go still, he will really have earned that.
He really will have earned it. And again, just to remind those who may not be familiar at home, the drivers are on site here at Barcelona. They are in racing rigs that are not their own, not the ones that they drive at home, so they're not quite used to the equipment. They've done practice and testing during the course of today, which is Saturday, of course, but this is an alien environment almost for all the drivers, which is it's a pressure cooker, especially when we've got such big and high stakes in play as we do today.
So here we go, De Salvo well into the slipstream of the Bentley. Let's see what the Lamborghini can do. Gets much closer, much earlier than we've seen with the Ferrari previously. Down the outside into turn one. It's not the way you want to go, but smart defending from Brzezinski. Can he hold it on the brakes? He does. And ultimately, De Salvo has to back out.
Yep, some really good defending from Brzezinski. A carbon copy of how he defended again the last time from Tonizza in the Ferrari. Just making the attacking car have to do braking on the outside curb, which is not where you want to be. It's a limited grip situation, and De Salvo, just like Tonizza before him, thought discretion is the better part of valour, came out of the move and is looking to reset himself again, but that's now brought Tonizza right back in the mix again in the Ferrari.
I think these guys are going to have to find a new idea, because getting past Kuba Brzezinski into turn one is proving to be a tough ask, as is getting past Amos Lorito as well for Axel Petit.
Yep, Amos Lorito is still defending valiantly in P7 in the Ferrari. Axel Petit in 8th in the Lamborghini, who we're riding on board with now, is still struggling to find a way past that Ferrari, although in this fight I think the difference in speed between the two cars is maybe not as significant as the fight that we've been watching further up the field. These two seem fairly evenly balanced amongst themselves, and it's going to be a case of nerves and bravery, I think, will come down to how these drivers finish at the end of the race.
Every time we go and see an onboard shot of that Audi in the hands of Axel Petit and he drives it into the apex of a corner, it looks like he's trying to solve a Rubik's Cube with the steering wheel.
Which is really irritated, as I claimed earlier, that that's a neutral and quite calm car. And every time we see it proves me completely wrong, as we see Brzezinski again going heavily defensive. Will he start to coax back onto the racing line, as is his right? The Lamborghini this time has got a much better run, manages to get it done in the braking zone, but leaves it a little bit too late, not quite got enough room to close back into the second corner, and now he's under pressure from Tonizza behind in the Ferrari. Tonizza knows he can't go around the outside here, but he continues to have a good run. He'll be looking to get his nose up the inside into the next right-hand corner, but can't do so. Can he get enough of an overlap to get the run off the corner? I doubt it. That's hard but fair racing from all three drivers.
Really sensible car positioning from De Salvo there going into turn four. When he went defensive, he didn't go the whole way across the track. He just showed enough to stop Tonizza from putting a nose up the inside, and then didn't compromise himself through turn four.
Yeah, again, intelligent driving, and this is the difference, I think, between these professional esport drivers and some of the more casual racers.
You and me, Paul.
Maybe. The more casual racers, such as ourselves, where they can maintain that level of composure, awareness of what's happening behind them, and also ability to think 2 or 3 steps ahead, where maybe us mere mortals would capitulate the first time, miss our first braking point, and go talk to some shrubbery. So fabulous driving from all three once again.
Yeah,
and a real
excellent
class act.
defending by Brzezinski again in turn one. He went defensive early and then moved across the track into the braking zone, left just enough room, and well, here we go again.
Yep, it's almost like Kuba Brzezinski could do with a big car, which I thought, what car is it? He is driving a big car, so I see it's the Bentley Continental. This fight now, Chris, I don't know exactly, but this has been going on for pretty much the last 25 minutes solid, and that's intense if you're behind the steering wheel of one of those
Certainly is
three.
if you're Kuba Brzezinski.
Yep, he's actually, as you mentioned earlier, he's very much earned his place in wherever he finishes today so far. But 25 minutes, folks, still on the clock. If you're watching at home, thank you very much. Please do give us a like and a subscribe on the RDTV Twitch channel. We would appreciate that one. There's still another race to go at the end of this one, so do stay with Chris and I and the team for the rest of this broadcast, and I hope you're enjoying it. I know I'm certainly enjoying it, although for some reason I seem to have a massive tongue today and can't stop tripping over it while we talk. Too much happening in too short a space of time.
Yeah, and you keep spending a lot of those precious words describing how large the Bentley is as well.
It's got to be said because it might be missed, you never know. It's a big car. I like big cars, and it's impressive that, to be honest, jokes aside, it's impressive how competitive in the real and virtual world a car of that scale is. It doesn't look like it should be as nimble and as fast as it is in real world, and it's won races in the Black
not on
Series.
land anyway.
No, not on land, exactly, the boatly. But Brzezinski now at the moment doesn't seem to have the ultimate pace of Pavlovsky and Franchek, who's leading this race. He's now dropped to 8 seconds plus behind the leading cars. So,
well, he's been having to go defensive once every 4 corners for the last 20 minutes, so we can perhaps forgive that. But here we go again.
Yep, here we go again. Another lap, another battle. They're slightly further spread out than have been the case previously, but that Lamborghini does have some good straight line pace. It is in the slipstream of the Bentley in front, but I think on this occasion, DeSalvo's just a little bit too far back to do anything about the car in front.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the stage of the race where tyre wear is going to become a factor. Fuel saving as well, if anyone decided to try and short fuel and run a lower mix. I mean, that might be a real issue for those defending hard like Lurito and Brzezinski, who may be using more fuel than perhaps they'd planned.
Do you know, Chris, you have a really good point with that one. We've seen the drivers be caught out with that exact problem in previous races, pushing harder than initially intended. One guy that's very unlikely to get caught out by those such troubles is our race leader in the AMG Mercedes, Kemal Franchek, for the Thrustmaster eSport racing team.
We haven't seen a lot of him, have we?
As is always the case when somebody runs away and hides at the front of the field, Franchek's doing what he's most comfortable at doing, and that's setting the pace at the front of the grid, making no mistakes. A robotic but impressive performance for Franchek, and also Pavlovsky, which is now 6.3 behind in the second AMG Merc.
Yeah, Franchek doing what he's best known for, and I think Kuba Brzezinski doing what he's become known for this race, and forming a train of Italian supercars behind him.
Yep, that's a nice sight for anybody who likes their motor racing, I'm absolutely sure. Beautiful camera angle as well that we're looking at here from the helicopter as these three cars. Bear in mind, folks at home, these three drivers are absolutely on the limit of their own ability, their car's ability and their setup, and they're driving inches apart from each other. So this is a real class performance now as the Lamborghini of DeSalvo looks to the inside. Brzezinski does his signature defensive move, starts drifting back onto the racing line, which is within the rules, but the Lamborghini's got another bit of an overlap, but not enough. Not quite as good as the Bentley on the brakes, Chris, into
Carbon
T1.
copy of the last couple of attempts. He's going to have to find something. The problem is, if DeSalvo comes out the slipstream early to try and go up the inside into turn one, then he's going to hit that wall of air.
Yes, and that's going to slow him down just enough to really put him under pressure from Tanizza's Ferrari behind. So it's left you lose, right you lose really for DeSalvo at the moment, and maybe he needs to start thinking that it's the opportunity to look at a different part of the racetrack for an overtake, but that's a problem for another lap as we head into the final 20 minutes or so of the session. And Chris, Brzezinski, 20 minutes to go. Blatantly not got the outright pace of the two cars behind him, and is a Herculean effort to keep his position. Can he hold this? in the next 20 minutes.
Based on the evidence that we've been provided, and we've seen a lot of this, I think he can.
It'll be a fantastic performance, regardless of what happens from this moment onwards. It's been a fantastic race from these three. And actually now De Fuoco in the other Lamborghini, who as you know has got a 15-second time penalty to be applied to his time, is starting to close back up again. I think he's got probably enough of a gap to Laurito to avoid bringing Laurito into this fight. But this could become a four-way battle in the next few laps if they continue fighting as hard as they are doing at the moment, which looks like they're going to do it again on this lap.
Yeah, well, let's see if De Salvo can do anything different this time around. It's hard to imagine as a commentator, let alone someone in the position of driving. But once again, Brzezinski goes defensive early. De Salvo goes across right to take the racing line as you would expect, and once again, there's no room to get around the outside of that Bentley.
Yep, now the person out of these three that might be getting the most interested in what's happening is David Tanitsa in the Ferrari. He's seen the same move, the same behaviours from both drivers on the last couple of laps or so now. He knows these are drivers he can trust, he can race with. Tanitsa would be wise to start sussing out the possibility of inserting that 488, that beautifully liveried Ferrari 488 GT3 into one of these gaps that become available should the two cars ahead engage in the same sort of battle that we've seen them what feels like since the beginning of time, but probably been about 30 minutes or so. So be interesting to see how interested Tanitsa is in getting involved in this fight when he doesn't seem to maybe have the ultimate pace to stick with these cars in a clean air scenario.
The Ferrari just seems to lack that final kilometre or two an hour at top line speed. The Lamborghini seems a little bit better, but still not quite enough.
Yep, it's exactly what we've seen throughout the course of this season, I think, Chris, isn't it? That the Ferrari is a good all-round car, but not really exceptional in any areas, or certainly on the tracks that we've experienced so far this year. But now again, we're heading into the back end of the lap, and a cigarette paper could be thrown across all three of them. That's how close they are. And this time, in fact, it is the Ferrari that we're speaking of that seems the closer of the three cars. So will Tanitsa manage to use the slipstream of the Lamborghini in front to keep himself in position a little? I think I'm getting too excited for nothing because the gaps are just a bit too big to have a fight. Although, just for the sake of argument, let's have a look at the inside in the Lamborghini anyway, just in case something's cooking.
Yeah, De Salvo got a bit of a bad run off of the chicane, which compromised his run down the main straight. But as we're seeing, that Tanitsa's just really struggling with top line speed on that Ferrari setup. As we see Brzezinski run a little bit wide on the outside of turn 3, but that's not really going to do him any harm.
Just doing a little bit of name checking further down the field. Dries van Toor seems to be the faster and the higher placed of the two real world drivers. He's currently sitting in P10, a last lap of a 1:45.5, which compares to our race leader Kamil Franchek of a 1:44 flat almost. And Raffaele Marcello is currently 11th and in the pit lane actually, so Marcello's had some incident, not quite sure exactly what that was, but Marcello in the pit lane and has been so for a while.
Brzezinski had to go defensive into turn 4 and 5, keeping his tally of defensive moves well into the double figures now.
Yeah, Kuba Brzezinski is very much enjoying the inside of pretty much every corner around the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya so far in this opening race. And it's important, Chris, that Brzezinski does maintain his position, because I know I've said it before and it's worth repeating. There are points on offer from this race that will then go alongside the points our drivers gather in race 2 that kicks off at 9 p.m. this evening local time. So every point counts.
Yeah, of course, every point counts. This is a race of two halves, essentially an aggregate race called on points. But I think the key thing is that it's the top 3 drivers at the end of these two races that go through to the Lamborghini Squadra Corse prize.
Indeed, so that's what everybody is aiming for at this moment in time. You'll have seen the video with Andrea Caldarelli at the beginning of this broadcast explaining what that's all about. That's a huge prize, and not only that, there's also some professional pride. We're broadcasting on multiple channels to hopefully what we hope is a large and entertained audience, and this is our esport drivers' time to start to make a name for themselves and shine to a wider audience than has currently been the case so far in their fledgling careers.
wider audience maybe, but nothing quite as wide as the Bentley of Kuba Brzezinski.
Pray tell, sir, are you suggesting the Bentley is maybe a large car?
I've not mentioned it on the broadcast so far, Paul, but you've alluded to it, and I think it's probably worth pointing out that if it weren't a wide car, Kuba Brzezinski is doing a fantastic job of making it appear as such.
Yeah, he's doing a phenomenal job. We shouldn't underplay how strong Kuba Brzezinski has been performing so far in what is currently third place. And as predicted a few laps ago, De Fuoco has now moved himself up into the tail of this fight. So De Fuoco currently 6th on track, but carrying a 15-second time penalty, starting to bring himself into play. Now, Chris, if you were De Fuoco, you know you've got your on-screen prompt tells you you've got a 15-second time penalty. Do you buy into this fight, or do you hold back and avoid getting yourself into a bit of a pickle?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I would stay out of it, because I'm an honourable gentleman, Paul, but these are all very competitive drivers.
And the flip side of the coin is he needs to make a move to try and minimise the impact as Brzezinski again goes tight. The De Salvo looks to see if he can find a gap down the inside, but fails. He runs to the outside, the same as you were the last few laps. Pushed, not pushed, but encouraged towards the curb, which is not where you want to be braking at the kind of speeds these GT3 cars are doing. And Tanitsa now really interested in the back of the bright green Lamborghini, the Ferrari 488 GT3 of Davide Tanitsa in the Ferrari Driver Academy eSport team. Really interested in the back of De Salvo's Lamborghini, who has to go defensive, starts dropping a little bit away from the cars in front, looks to the inside, realises there's nothing doing, and the fight continues for the 100th tour.
Yeah, very much. De Salvo's going to have to find another answer. It's not going to happen down into turn 1.
What I think's impressive though, Chris, during that little exchange there, despite how interested Tanitsa is on the back of De Salvo's Lamborghini, De Salvo's not fallen away from the Bentley behind. He's still maintaining a very strong outright lap pace. So I think if De Salvo could find a way past the medium-sized car in front of him, he would have the legs to start gapping these two cars and doing something about Pavlovsky that's nearly 8 seconds up the road in the AMG Merc.
Yeah, it's 11 seconds up the road from Brzezinski, so that's a lot to make up in the final 12 minutes of the race, Paul.
Yeah, they may be a little bit too far away now really to have any kind of effect on the front two cars, but we're not really interested in that at the moment, because the fight is exactly what we're looking at for 4th, 5th and soon to be 6th position. Is as tense as it's been at any stage this race, which has been tense. Brzezinski going a little bit early to the inside for the defensive, maybe moving a little bit sooner, telegraphing the move slightly. The Lamborghini of De Salvo goes to the outside, realises there's nothing doing, keeps it alongside the Bentley a little bit longer than last time, and that may cost him, as Tanitsa in the Ferrari is looking one way and then the other to try and find a way past that Lamborghini.
It's all getting a little bit predictable in this battle. It's almost like they've copied and pasted the laps there a few times, Paul.
It is, but Tanitsa now is looking at the inside. The Lamborghini's ran a little bit further away from the apex than would have been ideal, but he's got the inside line for the next corner, so De Salvo there's got that one covered, but Tanitsa now is looking more enthusiastic to try and find a way past than he has done at any stage so far this season. So, not this season, this race even. So these three cars, the fight's starting to hot up, and I think it's been driven by David Tanitsa in the Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a backwards and forwards battle, hasn't it? At some points it's looked like De Salvo's the car to watch, other points Tanitsa.
And all the while, Brzezinski's keeping his head down, keeping it nice and clean. No way you're strong, no way you're weak, and just try and keep everything under control, which is, despite the fighting that we've just been speaking about, Brzezinski's no further in front of the two cars behind, which doesn't bode well in terms of his prospects for the next 11 and so minutes.
11 and so minutes, maybe 8 or so laps, something like that.
Yep, so it's the fight is very much still burning very brightly with these three cars, and I think you're right, Chris. I think De Fuoco has decided that this is a fight, excited as it might be, is not something he wants to get involved in his position, as again, we've been here before, and the same result again.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say than that, Paul. Here we are. We've seen that attempt, that excellent defending by Brzezinski lap after lap, and it's just putting it's putting him in a position where DeSalvo and Tanitsa are going to just have to do something desperate, I think.
Here's one for you. Chris, these are theoretical. If you're DeSalvo, you can see that Tanitsa appears as though it's started to pick up the pace a little bit behind. Do you allow the Ferrari past to see if you can get the Ferrari to open a door that you're currently not able to, and then sneak in through that open door that may have been carved? Or do you stay greedy? Do you keep your position and continue pushing forward? As we're looking at Laurito still engaged in a battle royal with Axel Petit for 7th and 8th position in this race.
In answer to your question, Paul, not a chance.
I suspect that might be the case, and to be honest with you, I think we can expect to see these positions changing backwards and forwards, as we see just at the fore of the screen that Laurito was looking up the inside of DeSalvo. I'm not quite sure exactly how that move panned out, whether it was just a look. I think I may have caught him just overtaken DeSalvo, so a good bit of driving as DeSalvo's back in front again. So
hopefully we can pick that up on the replay and see how that panned out, because those two cars keep pinging about into different positions as the cameras change.
Looks like Tanitsa just for all too briefly got in front of the Lamborghini, and that actually has allowed Kuba Brzezinski a little bit of breathing space in the 3rd position Bentley Continental GT3. Not sure how long that advantage will last, as the Bentley does seem to be shy on ultimate lap time compared to the cars behind, but Brzezinski can probably just calm himself down for, I don't know, a quarter of a lap maybe until the cars are behind, as Laurito now is under significant pressure from Axel Petit in the Audi behind. This has got an air of overtaking about it, I hope, Chris.
Yeah, he's got his best chance now down into turn 4. Laurito goes defensive, and there's just not a lot you can do there unless you've got a massive pace advantage.
There's one thing we've seen so far during this first of 2 races for the SRO Esport GT Series final round, is some quality defensive driving from our drivers, but some intelligent chases as well, where they're not throwing the car into near impossible situations. There's some smart racing going on so far amongst these cars.
Yeah, and while we were enjoying the other battle for the time, for probably the longest period of time we've cut away from the battle for P3, it has to be said that the Williams Esport driver Kuba Brzezinski doing a fantastic job up front. The 3 chasing Lamborghini drivers behind just don't seem to have the answer.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job, but that gap that he found himself gifted for the fight between DeSalvo and Tanitsa is very quickly, although arguably not as quick as I would have expected, closing down now. So Brzezinski's not going to be far away from finding himself under pressure again, possibly at the end of the following lap that we're just about to start now. Brzezinski's lap time, out of interest, is the last time round was a 1 minute 44.661, and we compare that to the race leading Kemal Frenchek in the AMG Mercedes, which is a 1 minute 44.0. So Brzezinski 0.6 of a second away from the ultimate pace, but curiously a little bit faster than the 2 chasing cars behind. So Kuba doing a good job keeping control of his car and his tyres. So far, so good.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say Kuba's doing everything he needs to do. He's positioned his car perfectly at every point he's needed to as well, Paul.
He has indeed, and I'm just getting a little update from Race Control that our 2 real-world racing stars, Dries Van Toor and Raffaele Marcello, have been called away by their real teams for a meeting, so that will explain why both cars are now parked and out of the race, which is a real shame, but the pace was fantastic from both drivers, running on the 146s, which, considering the lack of experience, practice and testing in the car, is a solid result. As we flick back now to DeSalvo on the defensive from the Ferrari of Tanitsa behind. Tanitsa on the outside line, not in the ideal position. DeSalvo putting his car in the middle of the circuit and very quickly closed down that opportunity, but is skating a little bit further away from the apex than he would so desire, but not enough to leave a Ferrari-sized gap up the inside. And Kuba Brzezinski will be not physically rubbing his hands together, but emotionally rubbing his hands together. That the harder these two fight, the longer he can keep a little bit of gap.
Well, we've seen that Ferrari seems to lack a little bit in straight line speed to the Lamborghini, and it didn't seem to get off of the chicane particularly well there, which meant that any potential chance that Tanitsa had of capitalising on that little mistake there from DeSalvo is long, long gone.
Yep, so this fight now starting to when I say drawing out, it makes it sound like they've massive gaps. Instead of being a few thousandths, it's a tenth or two. But that's good news for Brzezinski, as we said. He's now actually got the biggest gap, just under a second, that he's had pretty much since the green flag fell in that third position Bentley, as Franchek continues to lead the race by 9.8 seconds from Thrustmaster Esport Racing teammate Karol Pawlowski in the sister AMG Mercedes. Brzezinski holds on to third. De Salvo and Tanitsa are as one practically in fourth and fifth. De Fuoco with his 15-second time penalty holding station at the back of this one, probably enjoying a battle royal in front of him in the other Lamborghini in sixth. Lorito and Axel Petit's fight is still very much a raging for 7th and 8th, and David Greco is the last of our running esport drivers in 9th in the Audi, as Yayovsky unfortunately exited proceedings earlier in the race after making contact.
There you go, Lorito having to go defensive right from the beginning of the straight down into turn 10. Petit tries to run it round the outside, which is, well, honestly never going to work, Paul.
No, that was super late on the brakes, and that absolutely compromised the entire corner for Petit, and bit of
Points for
desperation there.
Points for effort, but yeah, you're absolutely right, Paul. I've said absolutely now. It's out there.
Not bad though, Chris. It's 55 minutes in, and that's the first time I'm conscious of us saying that. So for those of you that have not followed the season so far, that has become a little bit of an annoying habit that neither of us can shake. But 3 minutes 55 seconds left on the clock. 8:40 a.m. in game. The simulation looked beautiful in the lighting and shadow conditions around what is a beautiful race circuit, which is the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya.
Petit trying to go around the outside into turn 1 now. We've seen how easy it is to defend there if you've got the car underneath you, and it looks like Lorito does have that at this stage. Petit's best chance now is if he just stay close, stay tidy through turn 3, and it looks like that's happening, although we know he runs very, very wide.
Yep, Axel Petit trying to get a bit of a shake on, but I think he's showing a little bit of frustration now in his driving in the GT3 spec Audi, as I thought he was going to go for the inside, and a little trick of the cameras. Actually, Lorito in front keeps it nice and calm and steady, and it's been not the most rapid of drives that we've seen Amos Lorito perform, but a very solid, very strong performance nevertheless in the 488 GT3. Currently sitting 7th, but Axel Petit is all but climbing over the top of the Ferrari in his bid to find a way past in the dying moments of what's been a thoroughly entertaining race so far. We're riding back on board with Tanitsa now in the Ferrari, chasing down the Lamborghini in front. David Tanitsa doing a great performance, but still no reward for what's been a very hard charge by the young Italian so far. 5th, heading into the last sectional lap. A repeat again, Chris, or do you think it can make something happen this time around?
I think we've seen before that the Ferrari struggles to get off of you said NGK chicane there. We're not at Nürburgring now. The RACC chicane, and just he's really going to struggle, particularly late in the race where the tyres have gone off, to just get that drive and get into the slipstream deep enough to effect an overtake. And ultimately, I think that's where Kuba Brzezinski has succeeded in this race.
Yeah, Kuba Brzezinski is performing absolutely fantastically, and in fact Brzezinski's found a little bit of pace. His last lap was his quickest of the race so far with a 1:44.3, so still a little way away from the two front-running race leaders, the Thrustmaster drivers, Franchek and Pawlowski. But Brzezinski now showing that actually a little bit of work that he's done to maintain the tyres and the condition of the car is starting to pay off a little bit for him.
Well, he hasn't been particularly ragged, unlike the cars behind him. It would seem to me that he's probably managed to keep the car in better shape for the end of the race than those that have been desperately trying to do something for the last 59 minutes.
Which is a remarkable performance from Kuba there currently in P3, because he's had basically pressure from the very second the race started till probably when the checker flag falls in a minute or so's time, as we're back to the Lorito and Petit fight. Axel Petit trying all the outside lines around the Circuit de Barcelona and touches the back of Lorito. That's a disappointing manoeuvre there. Very unfortunate that Axel Petit just touches the back of the 488 Ferrari, spins Lorito around, and Petit will be devastated, I am sure, with that incident, as both cars lose significant amounts of time time, allowing David Greco to nip through and take the position.
Greco had to take avoiding action in the background there, had to run around the outside of turn 10, which will have lost him time as well.
So that's contact between Laurito and Petit in the Ferrari and Audi respectively in what was a fight for 7th position. David Greco now inherits that P7. Petit recovers to 8th and Laurito in position 9. So rounding out the last of the running cars so far.
But this is the real story. Kamil Franček in the AMG GT3 Black Falcon Mercedes taking a victory tour really here. A nice simple final lap, guide the car home. That being said, clearly using every inch of the racetrack, just kissing the edge of the gravel there. Turns the car into turn 10, keeping everything neat and tidy as you would expect from Kamil, who has put on an absolute masterclass throughout this race. Only a few more corners to go now for the Team Thrustmaster driver through turn 12. Got the right-hander of turn 13 through the final chicane and then onto the back straight.
Yeah, Kamil Franček, the consummate professional, absolutely class act so far in this race. He stretched his lead out to over 10 seconds now from his Thrustmaster teammate Kamil Pawlowski. Rounding the final corner, Kamil Franček picks up from where he left off to win the opening race of the Fanatec SRO Esport GT Series Grand Finale here in Barcelona. Phenomenal performance from Franček. Pawlowski rounds out the top 2 positions in the sister AMG Mercedes, and Kuba Brzezinski, having a workmanlike performance into the final corner, keeps on unbelievably to that 3rd position after a race-long battle with pretty much everyone. And that was 60 minutes that lasted 10 seconds and was absolutely phenomenal, Chris.
I think that merits an absolutely, Paul.
It does.
The 2 Team Thrustmaster drivers at the front, deserved victory. They absolutely dominated the race. Brzezinski, probably my driver of the race. He had to do more than anyone else, going defensive about 400 times throughout that.
Yep, superb. A superb showcase for esports, a superb showcase for the Assetto Corsa Competizione racing simulator, and a superb showcase for people, I think, from top to bottom on the grid that we're going to see a lot of for the remainder of the next few years. Reminder for everybody at home, we have got another race, the second of the 2 final events of this season, starting at 2100. That's 9 p.m. local time here in Barcelona, where the points will be won, added together, and a new champion crowned.